Hey,
What's up,
hey.
everybody?
Hola. Hola, hola, hola. What's today?
She's
Monday?
she's had energy like this
My energy
all
is off
day,
the chain
and I
today.
had to take a nap today.
And JP with it.
Is it with JP? No,
Yeah.
okay.
With Gerard at the top. Y'all know JP's still trying to work his technology out.
Trying to get my followers involved, but
So if you can invite friends, but if I invite you,
invite me to watch, and I'm already in the video.
yeah, you're already in
That's
it. So,
fine.
all
Go
right.
ahead and jump right into what we're talking about today.
I'm Nori.
And I'm JP.
And we are the Apostles. Hi.
What's up, guys? Today we are here with this is the first episode of Books with Bay. Books with Bay is a new creation from us where we're going to be talking about the books that we love, the books that have played a big role in our development personally and as a couple and as a family. And this is something where we're trying out, where we're letting it go where it takes us. But we really wanted to do this because we both really love books and
We love books.
we read a lot. Even before meeting each other, we were big readers, and we wanted to do something that incorporates that stuff that we love to do, and also was able to help people, particularly with the work that we do. Me working with millennials in business, and working with millennial women.
Yeah. And as millennials too, I think it's important for us to explore some of this text. I don't know how many of us are reading some of the books that we are reading. And these are books that have been around for a little bit now. So we're excited to share that with you, and so that you can take whatever it is that's going to serve you from these books with you. So we're super excited. We're kicking off with The Power of Now.
Yes.
A Guide to Spiritual Enlightenment by Eckhart Tolle. And this is what it looks like. Dun, 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 dun. The Power of Now. This is the reading that we're gonna be going through, and I think we're looking to do about a week and a half with this book, and then move on to our next book. So, if you want to read along with us, it's called The Power of Now. I'm going to drop a link on this video to somewhere in Amazon. You can get it, but you can also check it out at your library, on the online library if you have access to those. It's a really amazing book. So we're super excited to kick off our Books with Bay with The Power of Now.
All right, we're there. We got it live on mine. Can I tell? Start a watch party? Can I tell?
You could do that. You can start. JP's setting some things up. Mute yourself.
Right.
Yeah. There we go.
Oh, and I can comment here too. So we got comments here.
Hi.
It's gonna be comments here. We good.
We're
we out here. All right. We
We're
found out how to do this.
Now we're like behind.
Yeah.
All right. So super excited because today we're talking about The Power of Now in our new video series, whatever this is called, Books with Bay. This is Bay.
I'm Bay. And
I'm Bay too.
So
Bay.
You're Bay too.
You're Bay too. Everybody can be Bay. Bay is just someone you love reading with, you love kicking it with. So if you've been looking to get into more reading, we got you. All right. Join our Books with Bay book club.
yeah. That's pretty much
exactly what it is. A book club. Power of Now is our first reading. So JP has read the intro in chapter 1. I've read the intro in chapter 1 too. So we
actually read the whole book.
Yeah, this is like a second read.
This is the second read of us for this book, and it's like the first because this is a totally new book based on some of the self-discovery they have. We probably read it maybe a year or so ago.
Yeah.
When we first moved down to Florida, St. Petersburg, we read this book, and even from reading it then, it was really powerful, particularly about being present and just thinking about what now means versus the past and the future. But coming back and reading it again, based on just this season in our life and so
it's a whole new book, y'all.
It's a whole new book. So
it's a whole new book. So I'm super excited to get started with this book. The first time I read it, I got a lot from this book. This is my copy, and as you can see, this literally like all this highlighted in it. I don't know if you can really see it, because this is trying to focus, but I try really hard not to highlight the entire book because that's how good it is. So let's get started with introduction. JP.
Baby.
Bay. I can't call him JP. I'm going to call him Bay because this is Books with Bay. So Bay, What were your thoughts on the intro?
So the intro, let's just start a little bit about Eckhart. He said he lived 30 years in a state of almost continuous anxiety plus periods of suicidal depression.
Of course, I highlight 30 years.
The same shit, right? I was thinking about that. I was like, man, how much of this stuff is gonna be
the same?
We haven't really talked. We talked about the format, but this is the first time we're consciously reading the same chapter and talking about it. So it's gonna be interesting to see the different things we highlight.
And I like the idea of not talking about it before. Just like for the first time hearing it in front of camera.
What did you think about that? Oh shit!
I highlighted the same thing. Okay, so
go ahead.
All right, so I'm so fucking excited. Does it make sense? Okay, so on the first page of introduction, second paragraph, Eckhart says that he was living this life until he was 30 years old, which was crazy to me because I started thinking about my own experience and my own struggles with depression and mental health, and a lot of it took peak around my 30th birthday, like definitely during my 30th year, going into my 31st birthday. Remember that whole fiasco. So I was like, oh my God, we are at the same age that Eckhart was when he started getting his own awakening, his own enlightenment. So that gave me this sense of like peace, almost like, okay, this is around the same time he was getting into this work. And he made me really excited to also be getting into this work right now in my 30s, because he also starts right before his 30th birthday. So that was something I really, really connected to. So yeah, that was the initial thing.
That was like the first thing in the book. And that's really big because this person, he's been dealing with that. I haven't had periods of suicidal depression for 30 years. So or at least living in that state of mind. So, for him to come out and say, hey, this is the catalyst of this, really shows that he's lived this, and what he's talking about is the real.
It's the real deal.
And he said he was living in misery, and he said, I could not live with myself any longer. This was the thought that kept repeating itself in his mind. You got that highlighted too?
Yes.
Yes, of course he does. So go ahead.
So this is like page 4, right, of the introduction of the book. So right now we're not even like into the book, right? Hey Candace, welcome to our book club. It's called Books with Bae. This is Bae, I'm Bae, and you're Bae too, because you're hearing all of us. So we're going over our first reading. It's The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. If you want to join us, we'll be doing one of these every single day. So you can pick up the book and read along with us. Now, in the intro, Eckhart starts talking about the idea that I cannot live with myself any longer. And he said something that I really connected with. He said, am I 1 or 2? If I cannot live with myself, there must be 2 of me, that I and the self that I cannot live with. And I was like, I've always had this feeling like, okay, if I hear something and then it's me hearing it, then what is it? Who is hearing
who's actually saying that?
And who's saying those things? It's like, who's in the head? Like besides me, obviously, because I perceive something that's in my head, and I was like, who is in me that's in the head if it's me hearing the thought? You know what I mean?
Hey,
yes, come on in.
We gotta drop the link.
Books, we gotta drop a link to the book. The book that we're reading right now is called The Power of Now, and this is chapter 1. So you are just in time. Please join us in reading this book. It's an amazing book, and we're super excited about it. We're going through chapter 1 right now, and we're talking about the author still. And Eckhart says that he's told himself, I cannot live with myself any longer. This was the thought that kept repeating itself in my mind. Then suddenly I became aware of what a peculiar thought it was. Am I 1 or 2? I definitely have felt like am I 1 or 2? Like I've had that question in my mind before, because I sometimes these thoughts can't come in, and I'm having a tough time differentiating what is the thought and what is me. And then if I am the person watching the thought, then what is that?
Right, exactly. And I used to have people, or when I always knew that there was this voice, and people like, I hear these voices in my head. I'm like, well, don't we all hear these voices in my head? Because I'm like, I hear something telling me to do stupid shit all the time, and I just laugh at it, like, you're funny. I got these other things to do. So yeah, it makes sense. And when he realized it by thinking, I can't be with, or I can't live without myself. Just that statement there, his presence to realize that means there's two of me, led to a lot of his next steps.
Yeah. Now, the next line that really spoke to me was resist nothing. And I actually went walking earlier today and I was thinking about it. And I was like, resist nothing. The thought just came to my mind. And then I was rereading this chapter for today's video for y'all. And with Bay, and I realized, oh my God, here it is again. Resist nothing. Because a lot of us are always resisting.
Always resisting.
If you feel pain or uncomfortable, you're like, I'm gonna think about something else, so I don't have to feel it. Like, you always wanting to escape the pain that you're feeling. You're always wanting to escape something, your circumstance, work. What we always living for the weekend. Always living for the weekend. Always living for vacation. And like in the present moment, you don't want to be in it because it's a mess. Why would you want to be in the mess?
All right. Cause that headache. Why you want to be in that pain?
Exactly.
Why you want to be in that pain?
Exactly. Okay. Asia says, I love how he shows you how you're not the thinker, you're the observer. You're getting a little bit ahead, but yes, we're going to go into that.
But we did talk about the observer as well. This is kind of the start of him observing that there's his mind and then there's himself. So you're exactly right.
Love it. Come through with this quote, Asia, when you're reading already. Yes. So that's something that stood up to me. And then the other line that I spoke to me was when he's like, when he realizes that nothing he can ever get will add value to who he already is.
Yes. And I have to be like, so you mean all that money I'm trying to make ain't gonna get it for me?
Yeah, being a billionaire ain't gonna help you.
Ain't gonna get it. It ain't gonna get it. It's not gonna solve all my problems. I feel like it is right now, but that's just the ego being like, once we get that shit.
The ego.
We're gonna be good.
The ego. That's
but
another thing.
I had to stop for a second when I read that. I was like, I know.
I had to stop. Yes. Oh, Aisha said she has to go, but DM her the book we're gonna go over next. Yes, and if you have recommendations of books, let us know. We can look at to see if it's in our list.
Yep.
Thank you for stopping by. All right, y'all. We're keeping in with introduction because this is so juicy. Okay, babe, what you got?
So what I got next is, so when he was able to become more present, realize that there were himself and the person he couldn't live without. The next time he looked at everything that he owned, he had a new vision of the world, and he said he recognized the room, and yet I knew I had never seen it before. Everything was fresh and pristine as it had just come into existence. And he was talking about just picking up a pen, a regular pen, and like really seeing it for the first time, like noticing everything about it. And he had a bottle and he was just like noticing everything just seemed fresh. Everything just seemed new. And you were mentioning that, over the past couple of days, me too, we're even reading this book, as I mentioned, things don't look the same. Like these lessons I'm getting now, I didn't get these lessons the first time I read the book.
And the other thing too, for me, as I'm becoming more present, as I'm being more present, because that's one thing I'm actually learning is to stop really relying on the word becoming so much, like not a cop out, and instead just be like, I'm gonna be more present instead of wanting to become more present. I'm just gonna start being present right now, because I was finding that I was getting a little bit of a cop out by using becoming, like, oh, later I can do it. Yeah. Well, being is right now. So it's like really, I've been with that word for a little bit. But as I am being more present in my day-to-day, I can see things more clearly. I can hear things that I hadn't noticed before. I can sit in silence and just be like, oh, I didn't even know that was there. Oh, man. Like, I become way more aware of my surroundings and how I feel about them. And when the feelings come up, I'm not like, stop feeling like that. That's stupid. Instead, I'm more like, listen, becoming I know we talked about the observer, but just kind of seeing the feelings, like seeing my reaction. Like, what does it really feel like? What starts happening in my body? What kind of changes do I feel in my energy? Like, just really paying attention to see what the process is like. So that's something that really, really resonated with me as well. And that Eckhart was experiencing, and I'm starting to experience too. So it's kind of like dope.
Awesome.
All right.
All here for dopeness. What you got for us next?
So the next thing I got is he talks about don't read with the mind only. So as y'all reading this book, if you are going to join us, and I know you will because you're going to want to get these gems for yourself. Okay. So as you're reading this book, Eckhart invites you not to read it with your mind, because there are a lot of things in this book that will challenge your perspective. And he has challenged my perspective, and I'm sure it's challenged Ben's perspective too. But if you read this book with your mind, you run the chance of missing out on some of the stuff that you can gather from this book if you're trying to focus on like thinking about it and conceptualize it. Because some of the things that are in this book, this is not a book written for the thinking mind. This is a book to help you. This is a book to help you understand the thinking mind. So if the thinking mind is reading this book, you're not going to get what you need to get, because the thinking mind is going to be defending itself throughout the entire time.
Judging.
He says it, right? Like, are we in chapter 1 already? No.
We're still in the intro.
It's an intro. But yeah, so the thinking mind is going to want to really convince you this book is for you. All right. So you have to leave the thoughts alone. And one thing Eckhart says is, I cannot tell you any spiritual truth that deep within you don't know already. All I can do is remind you of what you have forgotten. Living knowledge, ancient and yet ever new, is then activated and released from within every cell of your body. How powerful is that? Like, when I read this, I really connected with I did this interview for a podcast, and one of the things I shared with the host was that I don't tell women what to do. I help them give the key to themselves so they can unlock it. And when I read this, I was like, this is similar to what I shared on that podcast, but it's also like, yeah, you're not sharing nothing new. You already have this information. It's just about unlocking it within yourself. You know, other people got it. Beyonce got it. Oprah got it. JC got it. Obama got it. Auntie Shelly got it. You got it too. We all got it. It's about how do we access it and unlock it. And the fact that he leaves this book with like, I'm not going to tell you something you don't already know, immediately puts you in the driver's seat and puts you in control of this journey. And I really love that about this book. Okay. You need to go into chapter 1?
I got a couple more things from the intro. Right. He had a quote where, I understand the intense pressure of suffering that night must be forced on my consciousness to withdraw from the identification with the unhappy and deeply fearful self, which is ultimately a fiction of the mind. And for me, what that really means is that, you know, the things that we fear, the things we're scared of, we're making them all up in our mind. You know, as humans, you know, fear and things had a place, or they have a place. When we're back on the Serengeti, running from lions, tigers, you know, we would only be fearful at the time of the present. You know, we wouldn't run around thinking about, oh, are we gonna be scared about anxiety or things about having to go to work and all this free time? And that's more so of a newer thing with technology. We have unlimited choices, and that's where a lot of the anxiety and things come in our mind, the stress of I'm not making the right choices.
And as millennials, we feel like we should make all the right choices.
And they tell us that we're not making the right choices.
We have the access,
right?
But like, if you think about the other generations, how do they refer to millennials? As kids. They say things like you're never gonna pay your debt because you owe too much. You're never gonna have your own house. You're not independent. You're a leech on your parents. Like, these are the type of messages that as millennials we're hearing every single day. So it's really important that we understand where some of these things come from so that we can break those patterns. But it's really tough to do that if you're not even aware that the patterns exist, number one. And number two, you don't even know what to look for. So that's kind of where the power now comes in. And are you ready for chapter 1?
One more thing.
Go ahead. From
the intro that really struck me. This is like the last line, the last paragraph is something about the knower. I believe this is the last, might not be the last, but the last thing I wrote down is the knower behind the thinker.
Yes.
And this gets back to Dave's point of the thinker is always on and is trying to solve a problem, which we're going to talk about in chapter 1, but the knower is behind that. So inherently as yourself, as a person, you know what's best, but it's your thinker, it's your mind, you know, with all the inputs that we have from the world telling us what is and what isn't, that gets in the way of us truly knowing who we are. And that's, you know, kind of the journey I'm going on right now, is putting my finger down, not focusing on work as much and really getting to the knower, so I can really figure out what's my potential, or how to get over whatever I have in my past, so I can reach my potential.
And the interesting thing about that process is that it's not that complicated. It's really about slowing down and monitoring your behavior. Like, you think you know yourself, but I can guarantee you don't, because you don't watch yourself constantly. You rely on the patterns that you already have to live your day to day. And that makes sense, because obviously you don't want to exert additional energy. So I get it. You don't want to be like, I'm picking up the toothbrush, toothpaste is going on, I'm slowly brushing the right upper left, or whatever the thing is. You're not doing that because you don't need to. So you purposely don't do it. You capitalize on that. But when the things that are in your programming are not to help you, are not helping you, you're capitalizing on that, helping yourself over and over again, because you don't have to invest the additional energy. So
what's good, Brandon?
Hey. All right.
Brandon's on my channel. So
hi, Brandon. Love it. Okay, so now I think we're ready for chapter 1.
Yes, chapter 1.
All of that was just the intro.
That was just
to
the
give
intro,
you some
bro.
Perspective on this book. It's so dope.
And I had to get to a point, and we'll learn as we go on. But I could have pages of notes. Like I can't highlight the whole chapter.
You can't highlight.
The whole chapter. And I don't know what time we're trying to hold these two, but yeah, we're gonna need to.
If you have a recommendation for what this time is, drop it in there so we can just pick it. Okay, so chapter numero 1. There's so much to cover in this chapter.
Where should we start?
I'm actually with the format of this book, I'm gonna start with the format of this book. So way this book is formatted is a question and answer format. What Eckhart did with this book is he took a lot of questions that he gets at seminars and events, and then he put them into the book. Some of them he did verbatim, and then others he kind of rephrased them a little bit to combine different questions. So these are questions that real people like you, like me, like whoever else is in your house, your grandma, your granddaddy, whomever, they are asking these questions too. So don't feel like you are the only person with these questions, because they come from a book that, according to the cover, sold over 5 million copies. So a lot of people got these questions. That's all I'm saying. The first question that the book opens with, every chapter he tackles different questions, different topics. So the first one we're gonna go through is called "You Are Not Your Mind." And maybe the next time I'll just put the name of the chapter. So the chapter is "You Are Not Your Mind." That's what we're gonna review right now. And the first question that Eckhart is asked is, enlightenment, what is that? Do you wonder what enlightenment is? What's enlightenment to you?
Whenever I thought of enlightenment, I'll go back to high school when I was in one of my literature classes. I think it was like junior year. And we learned about the Enlightenment, when all this art and all this technology and this big pretty much revolution of the human mind happened. So when I hear enlightenment, that's what I initially think about.
For me, when I hear enlightenment, I kind of associate it with like this wokeness type of thing. And when I think about the wokeness, I think a lot about like the whole type of culture of wokeness. That's like before I knew that there was a whole nother way of it. But that's kind of what I used to think enlightenment was. It was more had to do with like being a woke Black person and, hating white people. Because that's what I think a lot of it's my misunderstanding. I'm open to being educated, but that's just my perception based on what I see, based on how people communicate about it. That's what I understand it to be. So when I love the way Eckhart breaks it down.
Like, break it down for us.
The way he breaks it down, he uses a parable, Bucky, and he tells the story of this beggar. And the beggar has been sitting on the street. Imagine like a homeless person on the road, and you're passing by, and the homeless person is like, "Yo, can you spare some change?" And then you look at the homeless person, or he looks at the homeless person, and he's like, "Oh, I don't have nothing to give you. Like, my bad. Like, I don't got it." So the homeless person is like, "Bro, come on, change." And he says the homeless person is sitting on this box. People that live on the street, they got usually the cushion, so they're sitting on this box. And he looks at the homeless person, and he's like, "Hey, what's in that box you're sitting on?" And the person is like, "This old thing, nothing." And then in this box, stupid ass box. And he's like, "Have you looked in it?" And he's like, "No." And he goes and looks in it, and the box is full of gold.
Gold. I like gold. And it was there the whole time.
And he was sitting, this homeless person was sitting on this box the whole time. And then what Eckhart says, he is the stranger that tells the homeless person to open the box. He has nothing to give you. Everything is already in the box, except that you, for your box is your body, is your inner self. And for the beggar is the actual box. So I love that he says, I am not that stranger who has nothing to give you and who's telling you to look inside, not inside any box as in the parable, but somewhere even closer inside yourself. And he says, you might be saying, I'm not a beggar. Huh. You better get your edges ready.
But
he said, I can hear you say, but I am not a beggar. And he says, you want to go back? You want to read that for us?
I don't know if I have that on mine.
Oh, right here. Those who have not found their true wealth, which is the radiant joy of being and the deep, unshakable peace that comes from with it, are beggars, if they have great material wealth. And this is so deep because I was watching a video about Oprah earlier today. And Oprah, who is a billionaire with a B.
Billionaire with a B.
Not a billionaire with a B.
I just want like 1%, half
She
a percent.
said in this interview that she was a billionaire and she wasn't happy. She said because material possessions.
How dare she not be happy with $1 billion?
Like, does she know a little bit about that? And I understand her because you can have these things and the things don't fill you in. The things don't give you joy. The things don't make you happy. I haven't had $1 billion, but I had a really nice apartment. You know, I was quote unquote living the life with my cute little husband in our nice spot. And I also wasn't happy. So I understand the idea that you can have material possessions and that those things don't bring you joy. And that other people won't understand that either because they think the answer is money. And if you have money, and you don't feel joy, people feel like you're not deserving of that money because you don't have that joy that comes with the money. Right. But money doesn't bring you joy. It's just a tool to help you achieve some of these things. So that's chapter 1, first page. We literally have spent like 5 minutes on it. And he says, I love what he actually describes enlightenment is. When he says the word enlightenment conjures up the idea of some superhuman accomplishment. And the ego likes to keep it that way.
Oh, and you get the visions of the Buddha.
But it is simply your natural state of felt oneness and being. And really, that to me is what boils down this entire chapter. A lot of the women I work with, they talk about wanting to feel whole. They talk about this thing that's missing from them. They talk about, I feel like something is missing in my life. I feel like my life doesn't have any meaning. I feel like there are things that I want, but I don't have them and I don't know how to get them. I feel like I should have way more by now. And when I think about those women that I work with, I was those women. Sometimes I am them. And I feel that way too. And it comes from this desire to be whole, to feel like your life is complete. And that's why people get into relationships because they feel like their partner is going to complete me or, he's going to complete me or I'm going to complete him. That's why people have kids because they feel like, oh, I'm going to be whole when I have a child. People have told me, you'll never know what it's like to be loved until you have a child. And I'm like, okay, sure. Because it's like, you're putting me in a position that I don't understand. Like, I'm never going to understand the thing that you have. I am never going to understand the thing that you have, but you do understand that you have because you have love, the same thing that I have. And our love is not different. The love I feel for him is not the love I feel different from the love I feel for you. It's still love. It just manifests in different ways, but the love is still love. And I love that he kind of talks about that a little bit in the first pages of the book. And then this desire to be one and whole, because I think a lot of us, that's just what we want. We want to feel like I don't need everything that's out there to be good. And I think a lot of us feel like that. And that's really important to me going into chapter 1. What do you have for us?
I had that too. I had the quote there, and he sums it up and says, enlightenment is the end of suffering. What would it be like in your life if you didn't have to suffer?
That's a word. That's a word.
The end of suffering. So let's think about that. That means the end to... I have a list of things for pain. We'll get into that a little bit later. But the end of suffering, the end of things annoying you,
Mm-hmm.
the end of
people taking you out of character. That's a popular line.
The end of you judging other people.
The end of you caring when other people judge you. Or the end of you allowing other people to stay in your life so that you can complain with them about what's happening in your life and not change your life while you're at it. That's like a whole nother line. Yeah. So,
and the greatest obstacle to us really experiencing that is our identification with
the mind,
with our minds.
Okay.
Let's
bring that down.
Right? You're ready for that one, right?
Let's bring that down. What does identification?
Nice segue. Right?
What does identification with the mind mean? Let's talk about that.
Where do you start, babe? Tell us about it. So,
the mind is not who you are. That's the first thing we're gonna get out of the way.
Remember how we talked about is two selves in the intro? Well, now we're getting more into that.
We're gonna get deeper into the meat, the juice here. The mind is not who you are. So the thoughts that you have in your mind, that's not you. You begin to think that they're you because they are in, your head, which for your body. So they're my head, they're my thoughts. Right. But they can be in your head and not be your thought. And you might be asking yourself, Nori, what the hell? What do you mean? They're my thoughts. They're not nobody else's thoughts. No, they are. Because if you think about the thoughts that are in your mind, how many of those thoughts originated from you? And how many of those thoughts did you learn from other people? Did you learn from your parents? Did you learn from your friends? Did you learn from your siblings? From your coworkers? From your environment? From society. One of the things that we learned recently is that in your first 7 years of life, you learn over 100,000 rules on how to be a human in Earth.
Even before you're born, parents are talking to their kids in the womb. Your body and how your life might be affected by how your mother or your father run their life before you can get here. So we're influenced by these things. When we get out, there's colors picked out for you. There's a name picked out for you.
You're a boy or a girl.
Your room has been decorated based on someone else's vision of what's going to be the best environment for you. And you don't get to choose where you live or their parents. You're kind of just, I call it the birth lottery. You show up here on Earth and you're just influenced by your environment and you suck it up because those first 7 years, you're just a sponge. Just a sponge for all that information.
So what happens with your mind or with the mind, and I like to call it not the mind because so that I can remind myself that I'm not the mind, I'm not the thoughts. Like just because I have a thought that says slap babe doesn't mean I'm a slap babe.
You gonna slap me?
Is a thought there? I don't know. For example. Although I used to have an alternate world, but I used to slap him all the time. So when it comes to identifying with the mind, it's that all those thoughts that you have, things that people have said about you. Maybe someone once said, "Oh, you're stupid," or "You're dumb," or that was a dumb idea, or somebody might have shut you down. Somebody might have said things like, "Oh, the idea, you're not gonna make any money for that," or "Everybody fails." Every business. 1 in 10 what is it? 1 in 10 business.
Something like
that. Businesses fail, or why are you starting that business? This is a dumb business. You might have heard these ideas and you absorb these messages. And depending on what your life has been like, if your life supports the idea that you suck at those things, you're gonna feel like, damn, they're right. I do suck at those things. Like remember that the last time when you were in school and you did like a problem in math that you really struggle with, and somebody would have been like, "Yo, you're dumb in math." You start saying, "I don't do math." I say those lines. I'm like, I don't do math.
I'm not good at math. I've never been good at reading.
I'm not good at remembering people's names.
I don't know how to spell. I used to say that, and I don't know how to spell.
And we use these things because we identify with the thoughts in the mind. It doesn't mean that you're not good at reading or spelling or at numbers. If you wanted to, you could be amazing at it because you just have to work at becoming better at it. But once you identify with the thought in the mind, once you decide that what's in the mind is right, and I believe it because it's right for me, once you see it's 3 decisions. It's not just one. It's 3 decisions that you make. Once that's in the system, done. You believe that stuff and you act accordingly. Your actions are going to be paired up by what you do. So if you really want to know if you identify with your mind, look at yourself based on what's happening in your mind. But look at what you do. Not what you think you do, but what you actually do. Are you actually on time or you think you're on time? And saying, well, I'm CP time. No, that's not a thing. Okay. Like, are you actually doing the thing you said you were going to do? Or are you still continue to say that you're eventually going to do it? So that was something that really came up. And I wanted to break that down because some people might not know what it means to identify with the mind. And to identify with the mind means that you believe what you think to be a true always. And that's not the case.
Not at all.
And more often than not, it's not the case.
Yeah, that first thought or that first instinct, you usually might want to reevaluate that.
Especially when it's a negative thought,
because
that's really when the mind is problematic. It's when it starts going into like this dark place, and you start having all these negative thoughts. That's a place where it gets really crazy. All right, let's go there.
So next we started talking about the compulsive thinker, which means, and this is for everyone, so anyone that's not enlightened yet, we're compulsive thinkers, and we're living in a state of apparent separateness in an insanely complex world of continuous problems and conflict, a world that reflects the ever-increasing fragmentation of the mind. You got that one highlighted?
Where are you? I don't even know where you are.
You got some other good stuff in
there. No, I don't have that highlighted. I don't have that, but you can share about that.
Yeah,
hold on. Fragmentation. You live in a what?
We live in a state of apparent separateness in an insanely complex world of continuous problems and conflict.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't highlight that, but I definitely can. Share us a little bit why that resonated with you.
Because we live in a very complex world, and we continuously to make our own damn problems. There's so much to worry about. There's so much to think about, and this is something I had to confront recently, that you can't think and do everything. You have to spend some time not thinking, or it's going to drive you crazy. And we as humans, we think we got to use our mind, or I got to be going. And our brain wants to solve problems. It's made to do that. And it's up to us, the conscious mind, to say, hey, I'm not thinking about anything in this moment, to give us that, because it just keeps increasing. And the mind, once it thinks it solves one problem, it's going on to the next. And once you start worrying, you talked about getting to that hole of depression where you can just keep going. If you don't watch the downs and the ups, you could easily start, spiraling downward.
I love that. So spot on. So the part that I had highlighted was when he talks about being. One of the things that Eckhart mentions is that you are a being. You want to connect with your being, right? And that's a term I haven't really heard as frequently as like other terms. And he breaks down what being is. Someone asked a question around like, hey, what is the word being? Can you explain that? And he says, being is not only beyond, but also deep within every form, as it is innermost, invisible, indestructible essence. This is why this book, if you're not prepared for it, it could really be dense.
It could be a lot.
It could be a lot.
I'm pretty sure next time we read this, we're going to learn a whole lot more.
It's a lot. He says, being is the eternal, ever-present one life beyond the myriad forms of life that are subject to birth and death. Okay, so life, right? Those are everyone that like life is not something that you can grab. It's not like you go to the store and you're like, okay, let me get an ounce of life, right? That's not how it works. A lot of us think about it as like my life, like,
oh, this is my life.
This is my life, or this is the love of my life, or things like that. We use those words very loosely, and in reality, life is not something that happens to you. You don't get life. You are life. Like, you come from life. Your life. Like, you give life to ideas. You get, if you are a woman, even if you're a man, you give life to actual physical life, like in terms of a baby. You give life to your businesses. You give life to your body. So sometimes people feel like, oh, I don't feel alive today, but you are alive because you're saying that, right? So like, you give life to your body, you give life to your organs, you give life to all these different elements of you, and you give life to other people as well. Because people I don't know if you've been told, like, people feel like, or the pastor be like, oh, I feel like the pastor poured life into me, or like my partner spoke life into me, like all of that. That's because you're life. You can only give what you have. You can only give life into other people because you yourself are life. If you weren't life, you wouldn't be able to do that. So that's the first thing, right? So since you don't have a life, you are life. You have the ability to bring life into anything you want to give. One of the reasons why this resonated with me so much was because, did I just lose it? Okay, it's because the idea of a being is deeper than that. It's it's the source of that life. So you are a source of life, right? And a lot of us are connected with the elements of us that have been given life to. We are connected to the mind, you're connected to the body, you're connected to the feeling. All of that is powered by something. All of that gets the life from something. Mm-hmm. Where does the feeling get the life from? Where does the power, where does the electricity get the life from so that you can move your body? Where does the mind get the life from so that you can operate all these thoughts? That is the source. That's what I think of the source as. And that's what to me is being. Being is what gives life to all these things that that are a part of you. Your body is not who you are. It's a shell for your being. And you can power your body. Was that too out there? I mean, that's really what it is.
Well, I get it, but you're going to have to ask the people if that
was that too out there for y'all?
There. It did get a little...
It did get a little, like, kind of...
To be honest, I wasn't present for all of it. Actually,
it was a lot, but essentially, this is what I want you to understand. There's elements of you that you give life to. Okay, you give life to the mind. If you die, you can't continue thinking anymore. Obviously, right? And you give life to your body so that it can move, and you can move your organs and whatever. And something powers that. Something gives that life. We can agree on that, right? Something gives that life, and that's the being. And that's what Eckhart Tolle describes to be the being. So you are the being. It's a part of you. You don't have to find it. It's already within you. And he says that that's what gives you the power to do that. And he says being can be felt, but it can never be understood mentally. It is your being that tells you somebody ain't right for you. Mm-hmm. That when you get that feeling, you can't describe it. You just get that gut feeling like, this doesn't work for me. That's your being telling you that. Some people call it intuition or other stuff like that's your being telling you that thing. And even when you're going for a position at work or something that you decided about that you were like, I don't know about this, that's your being telling you, no, you're going to be good. Go for it. Like, that's the thing. And that really resonated with me on that part of the chapter. What else we got?
So I have viewing the present with the view of the past.
Woo!
And the reason I have that is he has this example of crazy people, as we call them. This is what we call them today. We call them these people crazy because they're walking around talking to themselves, mm-hmm. And I'm using this label just to explain this concept, but we don't try to think of them as crazy, but that's just kind of the label society is given. So, maybe they're homeless, but people who are talking to themselves, mm-hmm. and you'd be like, who's this crazy person talking? There's no one around them. And he says, where we do the same things in our mind, we just don't do it auditorily. We don't speak it. We're more using that same language in our head. So, and I definitely get that because, sometimes I do find myself saying things and I'm like, I wasn't even thinking that, but the body's just so in tune mm-hmm. and it's just so built into my DNA that it automatically say it. So like, whenever I'm thinking of something that society has told me I'm not supposed to be doing, mm-hmm. my mind says stop that or I quit. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'll just say I'll quit when I'm thinking about something and I'll say it out loud. And that's because I'm thinking that whatever I'm thinking about mm-hmm. is society has told me it's either bad or I want to switch that habit. Mm-hmm. And that's just me kind of talking to myself. But we tend to judge people when they do that. We've judged this person who's speaking to themselves and we think they're crazy, but truly we're judging ourselves as well because we do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I'm glad you highlighted that. That was a good portion of the book. The next portion that I highlighted was thinking has become a disease. Mm-hmm. He says, for example, disease happens when things get out of balance. And I love that he breaks it down like that because I agree. I think thinking is a bit of a disease. Once you think about how thinking works, once you start thinking about something, you're going to be thinking about that for a long time because it's going to start looping and looping and looping. And next thing you know, you're like, it's been an hour. That's how you can be on Instagram scrolling and hours and hours and not know. You get into the zone.
Right. It's 10 o'clock. When did that happen? I just got home from work.
Mm-hmm. So
I'm hungry.
The idea that thinking is a disease is super legit because a lot of us don't think that. A lot of us don't believe that not thinking is a possibility.
That's because we derive our sense of self from thinking. We're addicted to thinking, mm-hmm. And he said we derive our sense of self from the content and the activity of the mind. We believe that we would cease to exist if we stopped thinking. So you're super identified with the mind, like the fact that if we were not thinking about our future problems, if we're not thinking about shit that happened in the past, who are we? And I think that's why a lot of times when you don't talk about gossip and things, people don't know what to talk about because they're not talking about something that somebody did in the past or what's going to happen in the future.
And what are we talking about?
What are we talking about? Because that's where they live in. They're living in the past, or they're living in the future.
Couldn't agree more with you, and the good news, there is good news, y'all. You can free yourself from the mind. Eckhart tells us this, chapter 1, page 18. He's already letting you know that you can get free of it, right? So he just described this thing that you probably had never even considered before. He got your juices in your whole thinking mind going like, ah! And then suddenly he tells you, you can be free. Like, it's cool. Like, don't panic. You can be free. And he tells you how to do that right on page 18, right? So before you don't even need to read the rest of the book, honestly, if you don't want to, because on page 18, he's giving you exactly what you need. Like, but you will read it because you're going to be like, I got questions. And so you're going to read it. But he says, you can take the first step right now and start listening to the voice in your head as often as you can. And not listening to act, but listen to observe.
Tell them.
Pay particular attention to any repetitive thought pattern, those old gramophone records that have been playing in your head perhaps for many years. This is what I mean by watching the thinker, which is another way of saying, listen to the voice in your head, be there as a witnessing
Just listen to it. Just listen to it. Don't act.
Don't
listen.
judge. Don't judge either. Just be like,
it's going to be hard. We're talking about a lot of new stuff. And this is not an overnight. It's not an overnight deal. We said we've read this the second time reading this book, and we're like, huh? Talking to me?
And I don't even know if an hour is enough for all of
right,
that.
We're at we had two chapters today.
We had 2 chapters today, so we're going to ride with the wave. That really spoke to me because, again, who is the thinker? I mean, now you know that there's someone that's the thinker, and you can name it the thinker. Name it the thinker, right? And then you also know that there's you that gets to watch it. So there's your being that powers that gives power to the mind, and you can watch what the mind has become. It's like if you had a kid or a plant, you can be like, what's happening with that plant over there? Instead of just being like, oh my God, the plant said to do this, let me do it. You could just be like, no, what's happening with this plant? Like, what kind of thoughts are coming out of this plant? I like the idea of the plant too, because it's like, the plant made me do it. All right, so that's what I had down. What else you got?
So that leads us into...
We skipped the whole part about when he talks about God. I had some notes on it, but
we can't go over everything.
We can't go over everything, y'all. We can't go over everything.
What you wrote down is what we're covering. So now we're talking about the ego. And this goes from, we've been thinking all of our lives, and now that we've been thinking so much, we think that we've become our thoughts, and that's when we become the phantom self, and this is when he introduces the ego or the false self. And the ego thinks only in the past and in the future, and only think those are important. The ego doesn't think in the now. So the ego isn't here right now watching this video or doing this video. The ego is thinking about how are we going to set this up for the next 2 weeks? Can we do it in the other room or something like that? That's where my ego is traveling. So why I'm working on being present, but it's hard, guys. You're probably here watching this video, and I'm pretty sure you floated off and you maybe even doing some other things while you're watching this video. And according to Eckhart, that's the ego showing his ugly face. Yeah.
And I want us to explain the ego a little bit more because I just, it never hurts. Some of us are hearing these terms for the first time, or some of us have been misinformed about what these terms mean. And I think you will help us to get on the same page. Even if you believe it's something different than what we're saying, we want you to know what it means when we say it. So the ego is all those things that you think you need to be. That's your ego. Everything that you feel like, oh, I need to do all these things based on what I've been taught. That you have an image of yourself. So I have an image of who I think Nori needs to be and the things that I think Nori needs to have. All those things that I think of Nori are not in the most loving way all the time. So a lot of times when I think about Nori as like Nori in my head, the perfect Nori in my head, she has her shit together, whatever that means. She lives in a place by the beach, like really close to the beach, like you can walk outside and the beach is right there. She is like this humanitarian, like all these things I have of myself.
Are you a humanitarian? Is that new? That's new. I haven't heard that one.
It's my stuff. Like I'm like this big fashion icon and stuff.
Really, fashion icon.
Yeah, that's also my thing.
Also new.
That's also you have not read my manifesto clearly.
Clearly.
That's the image I have of myself, and based on that image I have of myself, I've selected certain friends. I have a certain specific type of partner, and those are things that are rooted in the ego on who you think you need to be. Now, there is a difference between who you think you need to be and who you are. And when you start looking at who you think you need to be, you can start to identify who you are, because then you can start asking, is this really what I want to do? Like, am I really pressed about living outside of the beach? Like, am I going to be devastated if I don't live right there? No, I'm not. So the ego is this vision you have of who you think you need to be in order to be happy. That's really what the ego is.
And the ego, once we develop it, we start learning that the mind is essentially a survival machine. And anytime that the mind goes off, it starts attacking. It starts attacking, itself, particularly because the mind wants to survive. And so it's constantly storing and gathering information, and we're analyzing it, saying, is it good for me? Is it bad for me? And, he talks about that. This is not how creativity lives. This is not where joy comes from, because we're so busy trying to analyze and put things in certain boxes and judging things that we don't really get a chance to get in touch with our truly creative sides. And I definitely think that resonates with what I'm going through right now in this season, because I've been, using this past couple of weeks to really step back and let my, creative side be able to flourish, because I haven't been so focused on being a millionaire by 35 and hitting all these goals. Just like Bae was talking about being a fashion designer and all these things.
No, it's a fashion icon.
Icon, excuse me.
I'm getting confused. In case the universe want to give me that, I want you to mess that up. Fashion icon.
Icon. So, and art and creativity really comes from a place of what he calls the no mind and from inner stillness. So when the mind is being able to shut off, when we hit that control alt delete and put it to sleep, and have that stillness, is really where creativity comes from. Which is where this idea of us doing this here actually came from. We weren't really focusing on work. We were saying, hey, we want to explore more about ourselves, and we were truly present in what we were doing. And it just was like, hey, that's what. Why don't we turn what we love to do into what we do on a regular and share it with everyone? We do something similar already. So it took us that stillness, and that was only a week. I'm like, maybe it's take up another week. Who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen? So definitely that stillness and that no mind is gonna be crucial to our development.
I love that. I had one thing highlighted before that page, and he says, thinking and consciousness are not synonymous. Synonyms. How do you pronounce that?
Synonym. Yes.
Synonyms. Thinking and consciousness are not synonyms. And he says, thinking is only a small aspect of consciousness. Thought cannot exist without consciousness, but consciousness can exist. Consciousness does not need thought. It's not that it can exist, that it doesn't even need it. So that's something that really stood out to me. Before we go into the section of my meaty parts, emotions. So then he talks about emotions. And he defines emotions. Somebody asked him about emotions, and he's like, emotions don't only include, he said, emotions include all of the unconscious mental motion, reactive pattern. So emotion arises at the place where mind and body meet. It is the body's reaction to your mind Or you might say a reflection of your mind in the body. So this was really powerful for me because I love the world of emotions. Kind of where I hang out at.
I don't visit that neighborhood. I didn't visit that neighborhood too often, but now I moved in.
Emotions are my thing. I'm super into it. And Eckhart says emotions are a response to the mind by your body. So if you want to know what's going on in your mind, look at your body. Is there tension in your body? Do you feel?
Baby, like unflinch your eyebrows, because sometimes when I'm thinking, I'd be like,
he gets super, super serious.
My serious face.
The serious face. And I love that he shares this with us because in the emotion section, he also makes the distinct. Actually, I'm not this. I heard myself. He says, if you cannot feel your emotions, if you are cut off from them, you will eventually experience them on a purely physical level as a physical problem or symptom. This, I've seen it in my clients. Like, I've seen my clients literally be in a place where, like, they're constantly in pain. Like, they're at physical pain because of the stress, because of the emotion they feel, because of all of that. Like, I've literally seen it go down for them. So the idea that if you don't deal with your emotional pain, you're going to manifest into physical pain is very accurate. And your body starts telling, and the reason why I think that happens is because our bodies are finding ways to let us know, like, your being is trying to let you know with every tool that he has that there's some shit going on. You need to slow down.
Slow down.
And
slow down.
The emotions start by the feeling part, so you can feel it. Then you first start thinking about it and you want to ignore it. Then you move on to feeling it and you want to ignore that. Then you move on to your body giving you, breaking down on areas until you can't ignore that, because then it knocks your immune system out. Because as we learn about fight or flight mode, when you're on fight or flight mode, everything shuts down so that you can handle that thing you need to deal with in that moment. And that includes your immune system. And your immune system is the reason why you don't get sick.
Yeah.
So that was really, really powerful because emotions, again, they're so much more stronger than we I think we know how strong emotions are, and that's what we don't want to engage with them often. Because we're afraid of what's going to impact.
That's what I do. And that emotion just causes pain, and then you know, we're trying to get rid of that pain, and we're really not making it any better because trying to get rid of the pain is just causing us more pain because we're not really getting down and taking a look at what is the real solution. We might not even know what the real issue is. We may think it's one thing, and as we mentioned earlier, you know, it's going back to your early childhood. The issue may be there, and it may take some digging and thinking to really figure out, why do I have this emotion? Why do I continue to react to this situation this way? And it's, you know, usually something from when we were brought up or when we were raised, and we were programmed.
One thing that Eckhart says that you can utilize is to ask yourself some questions always to kind of bring you more into the moment and to be more aware. One of the questions he says is, what's going on inside me at this moment? By focusing your attention within. So what's happening with your energy? Like, if you really sat down and you felt your energy, you will be able to have the answer for that question. If you don't have it right now, if you're like, Nori, what does that even mean? You just need to sit down and like really feel it for yourself. Like, take a moment to feel what your energy feels like. It is there. You just not paying attention at this moment. So that's one thing I really, really like. And he already passed the part when he's like, the mind's job is to keep you from feeling pain.
Yes, we started talking about, that's when I was just talking about pain. We started talking about the different forms of pain. He says emotional pain, and you said this, emotional pain is the cause of physical pain and physical disease. So, you know, everything that's going on with you mentally, physically, is all in your mind. If you're really sick, you should think about what's really stressing you out. What anxiety do I have? You hear all the time with people, you know, particularly if they're workaholics, which is something that I have to watch out for, is, you know, them having strokes or just kind of dropping dead after the workplace because they worked so hard or they've neglected sleep or other things. And so we have to make sure that everything that's originating from our mind is positive and uplifting, and we're showing gratitude, because if we're getting to that downward spiral, as they said earlier, you know, it's going to show. So if you're not feeling well, if the thoughts in your head aren't positive, we're going to see it on your body. We're going to see your drooping, sad face, facial expressions, and just your energy when you come into a room is just going to be down. So today I got like 5-6 hours of sleep, and I felt a little groggy. and Bae's been off the charts today with her energy. So it's been a constant, you know, she's been up here, and I'm like, Bae, I'm not even, I'm here. I still need another couple hours of sleep. So I need you to kind of bring it down a couple octaves. But she's like, nope, I'm staying, I'm here, which, you know, that's once again, that's maybe part of my ego. Like, she needs to come down because why is she so happy? You know, that's what's going on in my mind, right? That's what the ego was telling me. And then I just smile at it and be like, shut up, dude. And I laugh, and I come over and I kiss her on the face. So
yes.
But there are different forms of resentment, you know, or forms of pain. You know, resentment, depression, hatred, jealousy, self-pity, guilt, anger, and even pleasure, which is crazy. Emotional pleasure and highs can lead to the seeds of doubt, because there's always going to be the opposite time when you're not going to be happy. So even when we're in a state of ecstasy, we're like, fuck, this is going to end. And I got to go back to regular old JP.
Back to work.
Back to regular old.
Back to the job, back to the kids, back to the partner, back to the drama, whatever it is.
Yeah. So even the things that we look forward to in our life. And, you know, you go, I have this Sunday, I've even said it to you, babe. It's like Sunday, shit, it's this kind of program. Tomorrow's the work day. Fuck, we gotta go back to work. Even when I'm on vacation, I'm like, man, I gotta go back to the job. This is nice, but, you know.
In the future. Hanging out in the future.
Hanging out
in the future.
On vacation. When the place I'm trying to be, for real. And I'm looking forward to the future.
This is such a great segue, because Eckhart gets asked about emotions such as love and joy. So you may be wondering, like, we're talking about this negative emotions, but what about love and joy? And what he argues is that the moments of joy and love and peace that we have experienced are like glimpses into what are capable of experiencing. And they usually don't last that long. Like, we were talking about being on vacation. The first 3 days you might be on vacation.
Like, I'm so happy.
I'm good. Oh yeah, soaking up the sun. Party. And then right before you know it's time to go, you start dreading it. So it doesn't last long. So he says that those real moments of peace don't last long. The same with joy, and the same with love. Real unconditional love. Like, even the idea of me loving you unconditionally, that's new. I just started loving you unconditionally, where it's like, yeah, I love you no matter what. Like, even if you decide to do something wrong, I still love you. I may not be with you, but I'm gonna love you anyway. Like, you know, like, I'm still gonna love you. This is my homie.
Neutral.
Like, if you decide to do something that you don't want to be parts with, that's cool, but I'm gonna love you for the rest of my life. Like, love you no matter what you do. I'm still gonna love you. The actions, every action is a reaction, but I'm gonna love you no matter what. So I think that's new. And he says, love, usually such moments are short-lived, as the mind quickly resumes its noise-making activity that we call thinking. That's when JP starts thinking about work. That's when it's like, oh, it's a Saturday, Sunday's about to be here, which means Monday's about to be here, which means work is about to start.
All right. On Saturday, like,
bro. It's
we work
on Sunday, but bottom line is it's Saturday. Like, why are you already 12 hours ahead?
Right.
Like, come down.
I would go play basketball in the morning. As soon as I'm done with basketball, I'm like, all right, what work we got to do? It's like, bro, we chilling.
We're hanging out. Love, joy, and peace cannot flourish until you have freed yourself from the mind dominance. But they are not what I would call emotions. So in this book, joy, love, and peace are not emotions, okay? They are beyond emotions. So they are deeper than emotions, or they're on a different level than emotions. That's all we know. And because they're on this different level, they don't apply to that duality rule, where if you're happy, there's happiness, there's sad, there's this, there's that. There's not a negative emotion that rivals love or peace or joy when it comes to this book. They have their own standalone. So you can have love without having hate. You can have joy without having whatever the opposite would be. I can't even think about it. And you can have peace without having chaos in your life. However, those things help you understand that you have them and you don't have them. So they also have a role. Like, having chaos lets you know that there's more, that you can have more peace, you know, so you can know how to deal with that. So this I thought was pretty interesting, because he says, love, joy, and peace are deep states of being, or rather 3 aspects of the state of interconnectedness with being. So when you are joyful, peaceful, and love is in your life, then you are connected to your being, which makes sense, because I think we right now as a couple, we're in a space that there's a lot of love in our home and a lot of peace.
Yes, lots of peace.
Lots of peace.
Lots of peace.
And lots of joy, like joy, internal joy for me and internal joy for you, and as a couple joy. So I think this is really coming.
You got somewhere to be?
Coming alive. I have plans to send someone for dinner. So yes. Yeah. But yeah, it's really, really alive. So that's what love, peace, and joy is. All right, but we're getting to the end, y'all.
Yeah, I think that was it for me.
That was the last thing you had.
Pain. There's two types of pain. There's the pain that we create now, and there's the pain from the past.
Yes.
So we choose to first, catalog that pain, and then we're choosing to create more pain now by thinking about either the future, or the past. So just thinking about it on those two levels, it takes a different type of work to reduce both of those. So, the mind sometimes brings things up that we've done wrong in the past, or even the things that we've done right. And once again, we talked about that can even create the pain because maybe I'm not doing those things the same way I was doing them before. So learning to deal with them on those levels, learning to recognize in the mind when I'm in the act of creating pain and when the mind is in the act of bringing up pain.
Excellent. In next video, we're going to go into chapter 2, Consciousness, the Way Out of Pain. And we're going to be talking about how to create no more pain in the present. So,
no more drama in my life.
You got time? Put this on Prime or whatever you do. You don't even have to do all that. Go to the library.com.
Library.com, yes. Go to library.com.
So wherever you live at, there's a library, and I'm sure that they have a place we can rent it out so you can join us.
Or get the nuggets from us.
We'll give you what we think is the most important thing for us right now, and then you can take it from there. And if you feel like you need to go cop the book.
All right. Thanks everybody from Nori's side, from my side,
JP's side,
my followers, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
This is so